Hello guys, and welcome to another glorious day in quarantine, another day in paradise. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of enjoying this actually. It's like a really long holiday. I've been working from home for a long time now. I'm quite pleased with it. But anyway, I wanted to make a pretty niche video. So I wanted to make my birth story video. But I wanted to make a birth story video with a difference. So this is the birth story video from the perspective of a man. From the perspective of a man who went through it with his wife, who went through this experience under these quarantine and these quarantine conditions that we have here. And I wanted to also give you guys some information, some tips that you should know before you take your wife to hospital. So this is more for the guys, but I suppose you ladies can listen to this as well and advise your men as well on this. So yeah, where do I start? So first of all, I wanted to say that me and my wife initially wanted to have our child in a birthing house. This is what we had planned. We went to the birthing house, of course, and the midwife checked out my wife and came to the conclusion that it was better for her to go to the hospital because the baby was sitting forward of the pelvis, too forward. The baby's head wasn't fully engaged, and my partner was having some really strong contractions, so the baby was coming no matter what. So I took her to the hospital. This is when all hell breaks loose. Because when I take her to the hospital, the line for the car park was so long because everybody was getting searched. You've got to remember, the army and security. The army was there doing the security and the screening and the testing of anyone who's coming on to the hospital grounds. Now, you will get a lot of people. There's a hashtag going around. I forgot what the hashtag is called now. Something about record your hospital. You know, something like that anyway. I have to tell you this before I start. If you go into any hospital right now at this present moment, it's going to look like zombie land. There isn't going to be anyone there. And that's because all non-essential staff, all of the non-essential facilities, all of the visitors, no one is allowed like that. It's only essential staff and people who are ill, one or the other. That's it, okay? So if you go onto the grounds, it's going to look dead. So please, I know that, especially over there in the States, you have CNN who are really good at dramatizing everything and juicing everything up, right? So it may contrast with that. So if you go to a hospital and you see that it's completely dead when all these doctors are talking about war zones and everything, and then you go to CNN, you go to these hospitals and it's completely dead, and then you go to watch CNN and CNN are saying that the world is about to end. I can see why people are getting confused with the idea, but you know, in my point of view, I would say that be careful of watching the mainstream media. I mean, if you know, you know. They're not very good sources of information, unfortunately. So anyway, went into hospital, drove in there, drove to the women's section of the hospital, parked up my car in an ambulance place. Silly me. So anyway, parked up my car in the ambulance place. I took my wife out. We went to walk in. We was actually walking in through the wrong entrance. There was a security guard there. He let us in anyway because she was in visible distress, and then they let us in, and then one of the nurses turned around and said to me, excuse me sir, you're going to need to move your car. So I said fine. I walked back out the building and moved my car. But as soon as I walked back into the building, they said, you have to go in through another way. You have to get properly screened. And when I walked around the building to get properly screened, they said that I was no longer allowed in the hospital. Now, I was very unhappy with this, of course, and I didn't quite know what to do in this situation. I remember trying to do everything to persuade these people that I wanted to go in, but they weren't having it, and I was really, really angry about that and wish things could have been different. Now, she had to go through this labour herself. She had to do everything herself, my wife, and I was really hurt by that. I was even more hurt after she came out, actually, because she said that the nurses in there, the midwives, they're all scared. They're so scared. They were coming in to give me water. I had to go through the contractions by myself. There was no one near her. And when they were coming in to give her water, they would walk into the room, they'd cover their mouths like that, and sort of, and then run back out of the room again. So that's the kind of service you're going to get. It's the opposite of a good service. It's going to be very poor. Eventually, a good midwife was appointed to my wife, and she did very well. But in the end, the service was more than bad. It was everything we didn't want in reality, except, well, I'll tell you at the end. So anyway, I was trying to do everything to get inside. I had a physical altercation with some of the soldiers outside. So yeah, things didn't really go as planned. And then eventually they tested her. The test came back negative, and then I was allowed into the building. And by that time, I went to walk inside this place, the part where she was having the child, and there was a lady standing. And then the doors opened up. There was a lady standing there with a baby in her hands, and it was my daughter. And so I was, you know, I understand that the midwife was happy that she was giving me this baby, but I was really, I don't want to swear, but I was really angry that that experience seems like it was robbed of us by people who were being pedantic about the situation. Yeah, there are people dying, but I think in that situation where I had been in isolation with my wife for over 2 months, you know, it was quite some time, we were fine. The reason why they gave it was because she said that she was, she had had a cough, a prolonged cough, but she had had this cough for over 6 months. So they checked it and they said, well, we're not going to take any chances, we're going to isolate you. And that's what happened. Really bad situation. Now, the reality is that I don't want to, you know, things could have gone worse. In hindsight, you know, there are plenty of parents out there that would have loved to have been in my situation, that would have loved to have had a healthy mother and a healthy child. I know that there are parents out there that would easily swap my position to have that. So I'm really happy with the way things worked out ultimately, because I got a healthy child out of it. But I was, sorry about this, guys, but I just can't help but thinking things could have been better for my wife. Who knows? If I was there in the room with her while she was going through these contractions, maybe I could have been there to have given her a lot more physical, emotional and spiritual support to enable her to have a vaginal delivery. So if this is a big thing. So it's pissed me off a little bit. It has pissed me off a little bit, but like I said, I'm happy with the results. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys 3 tips, okay? If you're planning to have a child in the hospital, here are 3 tips that you really need to know. So the first one is, for the guys, never leave her alone. Never, ever leave her alone. Secondly, okay, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I'll keep my ear out. Thank you. Okay, so firstly, never leave her alone. You don't ever want to put her in a position where they can split you up, basically. You don't want to be there. That is a bad situation, because they will use that situation, because the less people that are in the building, the less chances of there being a virus or somebody who's asymptomatic being in the building. So they may even bullshit about it. One way or another, don't leave her alone. Put her in a situation where you're always in with each other, and then they won't split you up. Okay? Rule number 2, if you do have symptoms and you know those symptoms are not COVID-19, then use your common sense. My partner had had a cough for over 6 months. If I was there, I would have said, of course, we don't have it. You know, do you have a cough? No, I don't. You have to tell them no, because the reality is, if you do have a cough and one that has been brought on lately, then okay, fair enough. Then you need to tell them that you have these symptoms. You need to tell them, because that could be COVID-19. You don't want to be going inside the hospital, endangering other people's lives and children's lives as well. So you need to tell them, but use your common sense. If you know you've had these symptoms for longer than 6, 7 months, 8 months, then it's obviously not the virus. Okay, so use your common sense. Number 3, and lastly, this is a really important one. If you're low risk, if you are a low risk birth, labour, ask your doctor. They'll tell you whether you're low risk or high risk. If you're low risk, I would strongly consider you guys having a think about having your child at home, especially during these times. I would have my child at home anyway. It was planned. This is what we really wanted ultimately. My partner's parents sort of talked her out of it, but ultimately that's what we wanted, and we came to the conclusion that to make everybody happy, we would have the child inside a birthing house. That's what we wanted. We didn't want to go to the hospital. The situation was even better because of the virus, but we knew that the hospital was there as a backup. So I would always consider having the child at home during these times. Try to stay away from the hospital. The hospital at this moment is not a good place to go, especially with that virus around. I mean, it is ground central for every city. It's ground central for the coronavirus, so be very careful, and yeah, use your common sense. So anyway, that's my little dodgy birthing story. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, stay safe out there. Take care. Ta-ra a bit.